Mr. Anil Swarup is a gold medalist, postgraduate in political science. He has served as an Indian Police Service officer for 1 year and then joined the IAS in 1981. He has served in various key positions for both Union and and the government of Uttar Pradesh, even as Education Secretary, Coal Secretary, Additional Secretary in the Cabinet Secretary of India, Additional Secretary of Labour and Empowerment, Export Commissioner, and as District Magistrate during the Babri Masjid Ram Janmabhoomi agitation. He became Secretary in the Coal Ministry after the coal scam in which the Supreme Court of India cancelled more than 200 blocks allocated since 1993. Mr. Swarup also won the Construction World Man of the Year, organized by Construction World magazines for his achievements in accelerating the coal auctions in 2014. Mr. Swarup is the author of the book, Not Just a Civil Servant, which was launched in February 19. And now he has launched a foundation called the Nexus of Good. Erudite and articulate, Mr. Anil Swarup. Mr. Swarup, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those very kind words.
Mr. Swarup, you have worked within the government and have seen what it takes to get something out of the government. What are your observations on what actions the government has been taking as a response to the crisis, both to reduce the loss of lives and for livelihood?
I think this crisis was unprecedented, unanticipated, came as a surprise, took everyone. It was a very difficult situation to handle. But I think the government has done reasonably well in terms of containing the impact of the crisis. If you compare it with other countries of the world, I think India has done reasonably well per capita or even otherwise. Yes, there have been problems, those relating to migrant workers, which probably could have been handled a bit better. But by and large, the handling has been pretty competent. Especially the field officers are doing a marvelous job. They're putting their heart and soul into it. And they have managed to mitigate some of the impact of the COVID. But of course, there's still a lot to be done. The crisis is still far from over. Only time will tell how we come out of it. But I think the initial steps have been pretty resolute and they've done pretty well.
So, crisis coming out of nowhere and the manner in which the protocols are followed within the government sector. I mean, how the resilience that you mentioned and the ability, the agility of the whole system to come up quickly and to organize themselves to, meet the needs of this crisis. You feel that has been well done?
There are many aspects to this crisis. One was handling the immediate impact of the crisis, which was to prevent the spiking of spread of this virus, which has happened in countries like Italy and Spain, where it spiked. To that extent, I think the control has been good because the immediate imposition of lockdown did help in containing the crisis. Now, there are many other impacts that will have to be looked into, are being looked into, because that was the immediate necessity. This also gave government the time to equip itself to the other fallouts of the crisis. For example, they've been able to equip their hospitals. They've been able to create that infrastructure that in case the numbers go up, they will be able to manage it. Now imagine a scenario that had lockdown not happened and the numbers had spiked. The hospitals were not in a position to do that. So they have taken that time and then they have set up such facilities where this may be possible. So that is one. That was the immediate fallout of the crisis. Of course, there are other aspects to it, the economic part of it, the social part of it, the educational part of it. There are many dimensions of the fallouts of this COVID crisis which will need to be managed over a period of time.
You have dealt with the education system and the coal system, both of which have their own law of the land. How did you manage to convert the inherent chaos into a linear system, more so in the case of coal and somewhat in the case of education?
Whether it's coal, education, or anywhere, in fact, in code, any problem that you have, there is a fundamental approach to a problem. First, we must admit the existence of a problem. Sometimes we try and push the problem under the carpet and make it appear as if everything is fine. That is disastrous. So first is acceptance of existence of a problem. Then second is to understand the why of the problem. Why does the problem exist? Because without understanding the why of a problem, you will never be able to find a solution. So first is accept the existence of a problem, then understand the why. Let me illustrate it by what happened in coal at that point in time. Everyone thought that these scams were a problem. So when I took over as Secretary Coal, I tried to understand the why of those scams and discovered that the problem was not scams. Scams were actually merely a symptom of a problem, which was that India was short of coal. Now, you go to the next level of why. Why was India short of coal? Given this fact that India sits on 300 million tons of coal, 300 billion tons of coal, we have, our requirement is only about 800 million tons per annum. So we have plethora of coal. We have the demand we are unable to meet. Go to the next level. Because coal extraction requires land, so land has to be acquired. Then you have environment and forest clearance, and then it requires evacuation. So you have to then look at these finding solution to these problems. I can go on and on. What I'm trying to say is that you have to first try and understand the cause of a problem. Once you understand the cause of a problem, then probably you can work towards finding a solution. But if you only scratch the surface, then there is a problem. You can't get away by merely scratching the surface and trying to find a solution. No, you have to go into. Same is the case with education. You have to understand if there is a problem in a particular segment of education, what is the problem? Now that problem may be a national problem, it could be a local problem. So you have to both understand the nature of the problem, the location of the problem, and then work out a strategy. In coal, we worked out a strategy. We worked out a strategy for land acquisition. We worked out a strategy for environment forest clearance. We worked out a strategy for evacuation. And that is the reason you see that in the year 15-16, we had a record production of coal, so much so that there was no crisis. We could tide over the crisis. And the strategy adopted was that instead of holding meetings in Delhi, as Secretary Coal, I didn't convene a single meeting in Delhi. All the meetings were held at the state level. There was a reason behind it. Because you have to convey a value proposition to the stakeholder. Something which we don't understand in the government, that unless those that you are approaching with a solution to the problem, until they find some benefit in the solution or the idea that you're giving, they will not accept it. So there is a whole strategy that needs to be worked out for finding solution to the problem. And this strategy could work out for any problem. I mean, in coal ministry, we used to jokingly say, after having sorted the coal problem, that give us the Kashmir problem, we just might be able to find a solution to it. So it's a question of how you approach a problem by understanding the why of it.
So, we lose nearly 1 trillion rupees a year in project delays. And you've also worked in the project monitoring group under Dr. Manmohan Singh's government. Could you tell us how did you apply that, kind of, approach?
To me, the primary crisis in the country today is the delays. And project monitoring group was one such instrument or institution through which this was taken care of. How did we do it? First, as I said in the beginning, understanding the why these delays are happening. These delays happen because at the bureaucratic level, there is no premium on taking fast decisions. I mean, if you don't take a decision, nothing will happen to you. If you take a decision, there are chances. So how do you create that environment where the bureaucracy or the civil servant is induced to take a decision? That's what PMG did. What PMG did was to create a transparent mechanism wherein any industry having an investment of more than 1,000 crore could raise that issue in a transparent platform where it could be known who's sitting on which file for how much time. Now, as you would know that in those 15 months, we got clearance of more than 5 lakh crores worth of project. People ask me, how did it happen? Of course, there's a long story behind it, and some of it gets incorporated in my book. But the short point was that we created a system where the world could know who is sitting on which file for how much time. Now, no matter how inefficient I am, to the world, I'd like to appear to be efficient. So if it gets to be known that I'm sitting on a file for a while, then I would not like to sit on that file. To the world, I'd like to know that I'm efficient. That actually did the trick, because the officers knew that they could be exposed. You might be aware that one cabinet minister lost a job because she was sitting on files for more than 50,000 crores. So that was the power of transparency in technology. So I have come to believe that a combination of transparency in technology can solve a number of problems that this country has. The only issue that you have with this is that this requires going into the details, and that won't give you immediate publicity. Sometimes we get so carried away with the publicity that we want that we don't go into the details of it, because details won't give you publicity. It requires solid hard work. Maybe in the end you do get it. I think the appreciation that the PMG got was phenomenal. It was unprecedented. But after a long time, after you did all that groundwork and you did it, in fact, it was the first time perhaps in the history of this country that both FICCI and CIA wrote to the PM that this is how governance should happen, the manner in which it was happening. But it happened after we had done everything. There couldn't be publicity on day one or within a week. The problem is sometimes you want publicity by making announcements. That doesn't work. You have to go into the details of it.
And then why hasn't that continued forward? I think it was a good model of having, when you have got 5 trillion rupees worth of projects cleared, because again, we are again faced with the same situation of stuck projects, and occasionally the minister has to resolve them. And, why isn't that into a system?
In an article written recently in 2 separate newspapers, I've highlighted this point. I've said that Project Monitoring Group was an institution that did solve the problem at a time when nothing else was happening. This was UPA 2. Now, this government is actually equipped to do it. I'm surprised why aren't they pushing it hard? Why aren't they reinvigorating this institution called PMG, getting an officer, a forward-thinking officer to head it and get things moving? Because no matter what you announce, no matter whichever package you announce, ultimate bottom line is to make things happen on the ground. And I have always believed that if you make the industry comfortable, if you make the Indian investor comfortable, international investor will come. You don't have to go to Germany to advertise that we are great. In fact, the best advertisers of good work being done in India would be those that are here. If the industry or the investor feels comfortable, and if he talks that things are good, I think the international investor will listen and come here. On the contrary, we are trying to roadshow. I mean, I'm not against roadshows, but the point is the substantial thing. We've been talking of ease of doing business. Now let us look inwards and see, actually, has there been an ease of business? Now, if not, so first would be to accept it is not. As I said in the beginning, you have to accept the existence of a problem. You accept it and then find out why. Look at such models like PMG that have worked and see whether those models could be replicated at the national level, then for a lesser value at the state level. There's a lot that can be done. I'm convinced because it has been done in the past, it can be done even now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Swarup, but there can be 2 times that major reforms can be unleashed. One, when the country presents the incumbent with a historic mandate, as our current Prime Minister had enjoyed. And second, when a crisis of this magnitude hits the country, and then there is nothing much to lose in any case. Why have we not seen big bang reforms yet?
I'm not a great believer in big bangs. I mean, I'm not a revolutionary because I'm being a student of history. I believe that all his revolutions have led to dictatorships. So I'm not a great believer in big bangs. I'm a believer in brass tacks, on going into the nitty-gritties of understanding of why of a problem. And this is not a big bang. I'm convinced that if we sit down with the investor and understand his problem, because when you try and find a solution to a problem, you have to sit with the stakeholder. Try and work with him on how to do it. Because if you don't do it, then no matter what bang you make, ultimately nothing. Bottom line is making things happen on the ground. No, the bangs are for publicity, for newspapers. You make a bang, it will be published tomorrow. And everyone talks about big bang because we love big bangs, no? Everyone. So they give you big bang. And thereafter, what is there? Silence after the explosion. No. It has to be a consistent effort in terms of institution building, in terms of system building, not mere announcements. And let us also try and look, if announcements have not worked, let us understand why haven't they worked? Why hadn't the tiger of Make in India traveled the distance which it was supposed to travel? Let's see why. I mean, we can't keep pushing it and say, no, it does work. Let's try and have informal discussion and see if business has not eased to the extent it should have, then let's try and understand why isn't. So, see, we should have the humility to first accept an event not happening and then see why it has not happened and move forward.
So, like the commercial coal mining was also allowed some time ago already, but it's now part of the package which is being talked about by the finance.
I was surprised, because it was announced today. I said this was announced a year ago and I had moved this file 4 years ago. The Prime Minister had agreed, but nothing happened. See, the problem in this country is happening, not announcing.
Yeah.
And even you use the word big bang. So everyone talks of big bang. They love it. So you have banks coming in. Every day there's a new bang. And before you realize what has happened to the previous bank, you're waiting for the next bank. So it's bang, bang, going nowhere. No.
Because
Action.
the details are not provided along with the announcement, and there is no
So
execution.
again, try and understand. But you don't want it. No, you said big bang. Big bang will not have details. It will have a bang. Why are our industry so obsessed with big bangs? The reason is very simple. We Indians are very fond of patakas. Very fond of patakas. Because if nothing happens during the day, it doesn't matter. In the evening, there is a good pataka show, we are very happy. So you get pataka shows. No. Let us look at the nuances of making it happen. My book would have been alternatively titled Making Things Happen in the Government. Because that's what that matters. The common man is not bothered about policies. I'll give you an example of education policy. When this group headed by Dr. Kasturi Rangan was created to come up with new education policy, when he came to meet me, I told him we don't need an education policy. He was surprised. He said, you are education secretary. I said, forget the policy. You may work on it. What India needs is an action plan for each state separately, because we are a diverse country. And that action plan could clearly list out what needs to be done, how it will be done, who will do it, by when it will be done, and then monitor it. Make things happen on the ground. The common man is not interested in your policy. I'm not against policy. You make your policy. But why do we make policies? Because that is what that hits the headlines. That is what is discussed on television shows. That's what that gives you the news. So we are all busy with policies. Brass tacks don't get you news headlines. So we don't. That requires solid hard work. So when you plan a construction project, there is obviously a vision. There will always be a way forward. But you go into the nitty-gritties of kitna steel lagna hai, kitna mazdoor lagega, wo kahan se aayega, steel kahan se aayega. These are the nitty-gritties. Without this, no matter how big a project you have, it's nice to be a visionary. We should be a visionary. But your feet firmly on the ground. Zameen se ud jata hai. If that be the case, then you're only visionary. You're only dreaming. I'm not against dreaming. We should be dreamers. Feet firmly on the ground. Understand the ground reality. That is where the dreams have to emerge. That disconnect is debilitating.
So action plan, deadlines, these are the things that get missed out in this whole.
And monitor them. See, and monitor. Monitor and facilitate both. Because we are very good at monitoring. Everyone wants to monitor everybody else. How about asking others, what do I do? Again, I give you an example of Coal Secretary. I hardly monitored anything. My understanding with Coal India was, you have a problem, tell me. Otherwise, why should I distrust him? Why should I? We had one of the finest officers as Chairman Coal India. I may have walked away with all the credit regarding coal, but I think my team slogged it out. They did all the walking, I did all the talking, and hence I got the credit. That's a different matter. Phenomenal team, but I encouraged them. I facilitated them. So that's what is required to be done.
Do you think the current economic package announced by the finance minister will revive Indian businesses? See,
revival will depend on how it operates on the ground. I keep saying, I'm not so enamored with the announcement. Yes, they have their role to play. How does it work on the ground and who works it? Ultimately, what happens on the ground is what that matters. Of course, announcement is just the beginning. But we have got so enamored with announcements that we don't even look at the previous announcement because we're waiting for the next announcement. The big bang, as you said. We love those bangs. We love these announcements. So you get announcements. You go into the nitty-gritties of it, you will get that. I've been appealing to the industry, for heaven's sake, don't ask for announcements. Ask for details. Go into the details. What needs to be done, how it will be done, who will do it, by when it will be done. Pure, simple 4 questions, answer them, things will move. That's my personal experience of 38 years in civil service. Whatever little that I could do was by going into these details. Ultimately, you get the credit for it. It's not that you don't, but you won't get it in the beginning. You have to be patient to deliver something on the ground.
Mr. Swarup,
in coal, when it happened, people talked about it. I never talked about it to begin with.
One of your favorite quotes for our viewers and listeners on a time like this?
Never lose hope. There's always a dawn around. Always a dawn around. And keep leveraging the positives that you have now. Massive positives from COVID. Look at the leveraging of technology that is happening. Unthinkable. I used to travel thrice a week post-retirement. I was traveling like mad. I was going to all parts of the country. Now this technology has enabled me to meet every day. I'm meeting hundreds of people. I never thought it was as powerful. It was there. I was aware. But probably I was not as aware as I am now. The power of technology. So there's so many positives. Look at the positive. Let's clinch this investment that is moving out of China and get it here. Massive, massive opportunity. I wrote an article on that. and I hope somebody works towards it. And that also, in that article I've written about the project monitoring group, that make the investor comfortable. They will come to India because India has the market. India has other wherewithal. But the most debilitating thing is the delays in various processes that the government has. That's where the PMG can help. If we can do that, if we can improve our infrastructure, which can be improved again through PMG, investment will flow to India. But we have to do the groundwork there. So I'm looking at it very positively. I look at anything that is there as with optimism. I see this is come, okay, but let's leverage the positives of COVID-19.
Mr. Swarup, thank you for speaking to us. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you very much. God bless you.